Hello, we are from Group 10, and then this is the list for the group member in Group 10. So today we are going to present the project for system analysis and design. The case study that we do is about FSCIT food kiosk. The title for this project is Food Kiosk Management System. The food kiosk management system involves several entities, which is supplier, food kiosk manager, and food kiosk staff. Food kiosk is a small booth that sell a variety of food to students and the whole campus. Food kiosks provide a quick, easy, and simple food service to customer. But the management system that they use is a manual system. The current management system is inefficient in managing the kiosk. The manual system they use in the food kiosk make it harder for the kiosk staff to do their job. This system take a long time and cause the management system to decelerate. So the purpose of this project is to improve the management system to efficiency.
There are 7 problem statements. First one would be time consumption because kiosk staff update and record the data manually. Next one would be human error and data entry in calculation. For example, entering the wrong information about the supplier during registration. Third one is disaster security. Data loss may occur in case disaster happens. Next is searching issues. Fifth one would be irrelevant paper receipts. They require higher production costs. Moreover, data thievery, and finally, leftover food.
So next up, we have our proposed solutions to those said problems. Firstly, is by using a centralized database system. This is to ensure an easier, efficient, and safer database system, like preventing the occurrence of a data leakage. Secondly is by eliminating the need for paper receipts by utilizing online transactions. Thirdly is business analysis, which is to help monitor business progress of the kiosks much more effectively. Fourth, an automatic calculation system. And lastly, online registration. This is to reduce the occurrence of data errors and make it easier to check information entered are accurate.
I'm Ko Ziyi. Now I will present the data flow diagram. First, we have context level diagram. Here we have our system food kiosk management system and 3 entities, which is supplier, manager, and staff. From the diagram, we can notice that the food kiosk staff have to input the quantity of the sold food and the sold food items and the chosen supplier, and the output of the system to staff are supplier details, food quantities, type of food, variety of food offer, and analysis of popular food. Then, the supplier entities have to input the application form, receipt, details of food, and invoice, while the output of the system to the supplier are payment received and the term and condition. Lastly, we have the manager. The manager have to input the online payment, and the system will output the check, invoice, and weekly report to manager. Next, we have a level 0 data flow diagram. In the level 0 data flow diagram, we have 5 processes. First, we have the process to decide the acceptance supplier. The supplier have to input the application form and the staff have to input the chosen supplier, and the output of this process, such as the term and conditions, will be received by supplier. While the variety of food offer and the supplier details will send to staff, and as you can see here, the supplier details will store in data store and we name it as supplier information. Next, we have the second process, which is to calculate the food item and total sales. Food kiosk staff will input the sold food items and the sold food quantities to process 2, and the supplier needs to input the details of the food to process 2 as well. The output of process 2, such as the type of food and the total number of the food item, will be sent to staff, while the quantities of unsold food items will send it to process 3 and process 4. The food item left and the total sales will send it to process 5. For process 3, analyze popular food among the customer. We have to input the quantity of leftover food from process 2. Then process 3 will generate an output, which is analysis of popular foods, and send it to staff and process 5. For process 4, we have the input of quantities of unsold food items from process 2, the receipt and invoice from supplier, and the online payment from manager. The output of process 4, such as the endorsed receipt, will be stored in a data store. The payment received will send to supplier and process 5, while the check invoice will send to manager. For the last process is generate weekly report process. We have the input of payment received from process 4, the food item left and total sales from process 2, and the analysis of popular food from process 3. The output of process 5 is weekly report, which will send it to manager. Then we have level 1 data flow diagram. Here we have a process 2 as an example. First, we have 2.1 process, perform the calculation of food item and the total sales. In this process, we have 3 input, which is the details of food item, sold food item, and quantities. Then it will produce output of the quantity of food item. One of the output is confirmations of total sales and send it to process 2.2, which is check and verify the total sales. From process 2.2, we produce an output that is total sales. The confirmations of food item is the last output from process 2.1, and it will send it to process 2.3, which is check and verify the calculations of food item. From process 2.3, it will generate 3 output, which is the type of food, the total number of food items, and the food item left.
So now we are going to show you our prototype demonstration of the user interface design for the crucial process flow in the data flow diagram. Hello everyone. So now I will be demonstrating one crucial process flow for our prototype in this food kiosk management system. So for our group, we have chosen process 4, which is calculate the supplier payment as the most crucial process flow in this food kiosk management system of our prototype. So as you guys can see here, this is actually the supplier homepage interface. So as a supplier, we can review the terms and conditions, send supply, and manage payment. So in process 4, since we are dealing with the manage payment of the supplier, we can click this link over here. So once we click the manage payment link, we will be directed to manage payment page, as you guys can see over here. So on the left side of the screen, we have the profile picture of the supplier together with the supplier name, and we also have 3 main components in this manage supplier payment page, which is the email, the invoice, and the receipt. So in the middle of the screen, we have a list of all the emails that have been sent. We also have the compose button, which will allow us to send new email. And lastly, we have the notification bell. So let us now review the email that have been sent. Firstly is the invoice. So this is how it looks like. We have all the information for the invoice here displayed. We can also actually reply to it and save. We can also review the receipt previously sent. Let's say as a supplier, we have sending supplies for 1 whole week. So we want to collect the payment. So the first thing that we need to do as a supplier is we will need to send invoice. So to send invoice as a supplier, we can click this invoice link here on the left side. Now it will display all the customer that we are working with. So in this case, our customer is actually food kiosk manager. So we can click the food kiosk manager name here, and we can see that all the information here are displayed. So this is actually the previous information. We can edit this previous email. We can actually edit it. So let me just input a sample input real quick. And now we can click submit. So notice that we cannot continue. Why? Because there's an input that we forgot to enter, which also the compulsory input, which is the address of the food kiosk manager. So we have to input this. This is actually one of the important system feedback of this interface design. Now that we have edited all the information here, we can actually just send the new invoice. We can also choose to delete the invoice if we want, but for now let's just send the invoice, and then here it will show successful feedback, which will tell user or the supplier that the email was successfully sent. Now what happens if we delete the invoice? So we can go to the invoice again and we can just delete the invoice. So all the information, the list of the customer that we have will be deleted. Now that we have sent the invoice, then we will now receive here the email from Food Kiosk Manager. So the Food Kiosk Manager has paid the amount to us according to the invoice. So if that's the case, we can now send the receipt to the Food Kiosk Manager. To send the receipt, we will have to go to the receipt link, and you guys can see that there is a Food Kiosk Manager information displayed here. So we can just click on the Food Kiosk Manager's name, and here, this is the receipt that is auto-generated. So this receipt, after we have confirmed it, we can actually save, and also we can send this to the food kiosk. When we send the email, the system feedback gives us a successful email notification. We can then click OK. So that's it for the supplier user part involving the process for managed supplier payment. Okay, so now we have come to the second part of the process flow, which is from the Food Kiosk Manager perspective. So this is actually what you guys can see here is actually the Food Kiosk Manager and staff homepage. So both Food Kiosk Manager and staff will be able to see this homepage. So we have the managed supplier, calculate food items and total sales, analyze popular food, supplier payment, and weekly report. For process 4, which is dealing with the supplier payment, Food Kiosk Manager can click on this link here. When click, we will be directed to sign in or login page for manager. This is actually a security measures and also to limit the information received by food kiosk staff. So since this payment process involve only two entities, which are supplier and Food Kiosk Manager, so the Food Kiosk staff which are not related to this process will be restricted from accessing this link. So as the manager, we can just log in. So notice that there's system feedback saying that please enter a valid email. So I'm just gonna enter simple email and also a simple password for us to log in. Okay, now we can successfully log in. You guys can see this is actually the supplier payment page for Food Kiosk Manager. On the left side, we have the manager profile picture and the manager's name. So there are two components involved in this supplier payment for Food Kiosk Manager, which is the email and the payment. In the center, we have the invoice and the receipt email list. We also have the compose and the notification page. So it's almost the same as the managed supplier page. Now let's say that we receive this invoice from the supplier. So let's say we have received this. As the Food Kiosk Manager, our job is to see the total payment needed to be paid and then to make the payment. So before that, we can actually save this invoice. We can also reply to it if we want to. Now proceed to the payment. So this is how the payment interface looks like. So there will be system feedback error if we doesn't input the right entry for this input field here. example, there's a guide for you to fill in the data entry. So let's quickly, I'm just gonna put some easy example. Alright, so everything looks good. Now we can then transfer. Okay, so this is the detail of the transfer and the recipient detail. So we now need to scan the access code. If we don't, it will prompt us to enter the access code. So we need to scan this with the phone, and then we can just enter the code. We can now click the confirm button, and all the information will be shown here. So we can save this payment proof either in PDF or Word, and can close. Okay, now that we know that we have paid the supplier, then the supplier will produce receipt, send us the receipt. So we can view the receipt like this. This is all the information that we have: the payment account, the payment date, and the price. And we can actually check, and we can actually save these receipts. So let's say if we want to tell the supplier that there's wrong information here, so we can reply here. So this reply is also important for us to endorse the receipt, because if the receipt is without errors, we can also tell the supplier that the receipt has been endorsed. So in other words, we are endorsing the receipt to the supplier. So we can now click the send button, and this is basically the whole process of process 4.
Crucial data store. Why is it called a crucial data store? It is called a crucial data store because the data store is used in the crucial process. So this is our example of crucial data store. First one, the data store ID is D1, data store name, endorsed receipt, data store description, keep all receipt that has been endorsed by the food kiosk manager. So for the data store element, first one we have sub underscore name, which means supplier's name. It is a base data store element, and the type of data is text. The size is 60. Next we have sub underscore add, which means supplier's address. It is a base data store, and the type of data is alphanumeric. The size is only 100. Up ahead we have sub underscore com, which means supplier's company's name. It is a base data store, and the type of data is alphanumeric. The size is only 30. Next we have sub underscore mlet, which means supplier's email address. It is a base data store element. The type of data is alphanumeric. The size is only 60. So from supplier's name to supplier's email address, we didn't have any specific data format and default value. Up ahead, we have sub underscore phnum, which means the supplier's phone number. It's a base data store, and the type of data is number. The size is 8 to 10, and the data format is just like our phone number and didn't have any default value. Up ahead, we have FDM underscore name, which means food kiosk manager's name. It is a base data store element, and the type of data is text. The size is only 30 and didn't have any data format and default value. And the next one is FDM underscore mlet, which means food kiosk manager's email base data store element, and type of data is alphanumeric. The size is only 60 and didn't have any data format and specific data format and default value. Next we have FDM underscore phnum, which means food kiosk manager's phone number. It is base data store, and the type of data is number. The size is 8 to 10, and the data format just like our phone number and didn't have any default value. And next we have sub underscore amtpd, which means amount paid to supplier. It is a derived data store, and the type of data is number. The size is only 10, and the data format is rm number, and the default value is 0.00 because it has cent for Ringgit Malaysia, so it must be 0.00. Next we have DT, which means the date of payment. It is a base data store, and the type of data is date or time. It didn't have any specific size. The data format is day over month over year, and didn't have any default value. The last one we have ref underscore no, which means receipt referral number. It is a derived data store, and the type of data is number. The size is only 8, and the data format is hashtag xxxx dash xxxx, and the default value is 0000 slash dash 000, which means the number is from 0 to 9. So that's all for our food kiosk presentation. Thank you.